When we don't understand in that way, when we don't realize in that way, and then, just people say, oh, I cannot do anything with this, and so just do something like that. And that is how they come to that conclusion, because of, kind of that lacking the wisdom about the reality, about the truth. So, that what it is called, all compounded phenomena are by its nature, it is impermanent and subject to change. It is related with the relative truth and relative reality. There is no anything to just believe something. You don't have to believe, anything. And that is the truth, that is the reality, what we see in this whole world, wherever we travel. In a very, very advanced and developed country, or kind of, third world war kind of, just very, very undeveloped country, everywhere, that is the nature. And we know that nature and truth. And then the second, Sakchetam Jutungyawa, like all the defiled, I don't know just how much you can really understand with that word, word defiled, in relation with these, spiritual teachings. Anything that which is defiled is subject to suffering. So defiled is kind of, like polluted, obscured, or afflicted. Like, our afflictive emotions, like, hatred, anger, desire, and all those are, and which is kind of defiled. So within ourselves, within our mind, there is one defiled mind, undefiled mind. So undefiled mind is called pure mind. And pure mind is that pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness, pure mind is our divine nature. And we are not experiencing that all the time. Maybe just tiny bit of it, once in a while, in between, somewhere suddenly. For no reason, just you are kind of like, just happy and peaceful, and kind of sense of, awareness. Very clear mind. Once in a blue moon, you just experience. Oh, wow. And then just maybe like few seconds, and gone. And then you are just saying, oh, yeah, what happened? How that happened? And you try to look for it and try to create that. Sometimes never come back. And that which explains that kind of just pure mind, pure consciousness, or divine nature, certainly when any kind of pollution, obscuration, afflictions are not there, and you are just being in kind of resting in its nature, that where you experience that. And that proves that everybody has that pure nature, pure mind, divine nature, the pure consciousness. It is there. But then on the other hand, we know just how we are just becoming busy, very busy. All our senses and our mind with all this kind of, relative, and even in the night while we are sleeping, with all sorts of dreams and experiences. So, that is why the pure and impure, anything that which is defiled is subject to suffering. So that way we know anything that is defiled is cause of suffering. And when we really know about that, based on its truth and reality, then, only thing is what we have to do is just try to work on it. Try to get rid of all those, anything that which is defiling, anything that which is kind of afflicting, how we can just, try to, in the beginning, how we can try to work on it just to, kind of like suppress, and reduce, and then after some time, how you can completely get rid of it. And there is a way to do that. And when you could reduce the cause of suffering, or when you reduce and really got rid of the defiled mind or consciousness, then you don't have the cause of suffering, then you are not going to experience any kind of suffering. When there is no cause, when there is no rice or mango or apple seed there, you are not going to have that tree. Without a seed, it doesn't just really appear, doesn't really grow in that way. Even in the West, how about just kind of like you feel like it is so developed with all sorts of technologies, with genetic engineering, all sorts of things, kind of. And at the same time, in the science and technologies, how that there is possibility of doing all sorts of things is because there is the possibility in the reality, in the nature itself. How you learn and how you understand about, quantum physics. There is some reality, getting closer to the reality. Not just only kind of, just believe something. Getting into that kind of reality about, the truth. And they all this kind of quantum physics science, they are getting just some sense of, understanding about that. So that way, how we can just kind of, get enough knowledge, wisdom in relation with all this kind of, phenomena to know exactly what is the cause of, suffering and what is the cause of, happiness. And then the so that is tougher one. It is more kind of, really relating with the more profound aspect, which, in a way, that's where it is saying, all the phenomena are by its nature, emptiness and selflessness. So that is also a truth, and also relative truth and relative reality. But it really needs lots of time to study, to really study, go through, all examining and doing all sorts of research on it. Because in a way, like, just like, in India, during the Buddha's time, how he taught, and then, how that has been continued, just all the way till to 12th, 13th century, that, just there are all these very extensive and great explanation, and with all this kind of proper reasonings to understand that, emptiness and selflessness as a absolute truth. And that part is just kind of like a, even it is just nature of this cup. That emptiness and selflessness is nature. It is the true nature of this cup, this table, this chair, and this hall, this building, and even this body, even our this consciousness. And that kind of truth, the reality, the absolute truth, it is just there, but it is just so profound, and somehow it is so subtle, we even could not notice anything about that. And on the other hand, we don't have any information on it. As science started doing all this kind of experiment in relation with kind of big object, why there is mountains, rocks, and houses, concrete, solid, animate, inanimate substances, and then they just kind of divide and just got into molecules and atoms, particles and partless particles, and where they already got into just somehow, beyond that there is just some sort of emptiness. And they just kind of doing the experiment, they found it. But the normal population of the world, we all are not the scientists. We have the potential of being a scientist. But we are not really inclined to be a scientist. Everybody, And that is why we don't really go through all this kind of, scientific experiments. And that is why, we don't really just, experience what that, science has gone through. Because we have our own busy life, taking care of this relative world, relative life. Even though we read many books, even though we try to listen to many things, and even though we just, somehow, understand, but being a scientist, being a philosopher, being a doctor, and being a, kind of spiritual has some difference. When we are just, that, and we are not, there is some difference. So, more in the experiential level. But anyhow, that just where it is, explains about, the emptiness nature of phenomena, and then emptiness nature of self. So this self, where we say self, oneself, I, me, that ego, just the emptiness nature. And that is a very big challenging. It is a very big challenging philosophy. Because, depending on kind of like habitual tendency and how we are kind of, how our minds are so, just programmed in our billions and billions lifetime to perceive and to think and to cling and to grasp as I. It has been just so deep and so hard and so concrete. Even suddenly just something drops and makes a big sound. You are just kind of, ooh, what is that? And why that is happening? Why that is happening? Why oneself suddenly just kind of like got, something like scared? And why it makes you feel some, very conscious about? Because there is the fear. And the fear, when you look into it, that fear, oh, this may happen something to me. The I. And that is why when we hear something kind of, danger sound, immediately just we feel, oh, I may die. And that is the worry. And that is why just everybody try to rush up just to escape. And why we do that, it is because of that attachment, grasping, clinging, and just, the thought where we think there is a concrete, solid, truly existing self, I, me. And we never realize it is emptiness. Never, ever just really even thought about the emptiness. And that is why there is the fear. Constantly there is the fear. And fears never ever just, leave you. Wherever you go, even your dream lifetimes, when something scary happens, you are just kind of frightened and you wake up. And even in the dreams, when you feel that you are just kind of worried, oh, this may attack me and something may happen to me, that's all. So, moment you let it go, that kind of attachment grasping to you, and when you have some sense of, kind of caring for others, there is some sense of kind of, relief, and some sense of, freedom within yourself, that there is no that much fear. So, that is a just very, very important point for if we really want to have liberation. It is just very extensively explained in the sutra, in these commentaries. Like if you read, as I mentioned, there also that about the Acharya Shantadeva's book, Bodhicharya Avatara, Bodhisattva way of life. It is really beneficial, and that will help you to really understand the reality and many things, many important, precious things, which is something somehow within yourself, and you never ever just have any information. You never know anything about that. You will just find all those, and if you train, then you can understand also, that what is meant by selflessness and just emptiness. Yeah, so it is also kind of very big topic, and that like in our monasteries, just kind of like just years and years and years, continuous study and just training to understand all those, and then later just doing meditation practice to really experience that, and that where you could have that actual liberation and enlightenment. So then and if these things are like that, then what is something better than that? Like it's saying, Nyangil Devashiva, liberation is the great peace. Nirvana is the great peace. And that great happiness, which means ultimate happiness. And that kind of just happiness, once you achieve, then you are never ever losing that. And that is also possible through all this kind of mind training. Because it is not just only in a kind of possible situation and nobody just really did. It is nothing like that. There are hundreds and thousands of practitioners who just gone through all this study, understand, meditate, and have that realization and got liberated. Even these days, there are great masters who experience those kind of realization. Just abiding in that kind of just great peace and great happiness. And at the same time, it is not like, oh, I'm got liberated, I'm just happy and so peaceful, now I'm fine, and not caring for other beings. Nobody like that. There is no anybody who have those kind of realization being so selfish. No anybody. Never ever happened within the whole history of this kind of spiritual practice. And once they knew that they could, just experience that kind of happiness and peace, then they want to share. Okay, well, this is something that everybody can have. Because they see, oh, everybody has that potential. Everybody has that cause and condition. And that is why there is the possibility to share and possibility to, just anyone can just, also really experience that. And through that, just in relation with those teachings, where we have been kind of gone through like, from the precious human rebirth and then the impermanence, that how Buddha taught and how it relates with the kind of relative and, this relative reality. So, then out of that, just to really engage into such kind of practice to get there, then the first thing, just the possible is with the, just sentient beings, where, just these, these kind of living beings which have that consciousness, sense of consciousness, sense of, mind, being sentient in that way. And those beings only have that possibility to engage into such kind of path to experience that kind of, liberation and enlightenment and Buddhahood and omniscient mind. So within those, sentient being, within those sentient beings, as it has been just kind of, categorized into, God realms. God is not just only a kind of, one single. There are just in a God realm, like in the heaven, just billions and billions of God beings, and have a very, very nice life, luxurious, prosperous, and good. But still that kind of happiness is temporary. Even they spend for million years. Okay, million years are good. Just enjoying, happy. Then what happens after 1 million years? So that is the problem. And then again they die. And then when death happens, it is not of their own choice. Again, it depends upon what kind of causes and conditions they have assembled to be reborn, in which kind of, being. Just, if we have, just in a way, if we have choice, where we want to born, I think, everybody would have a very good choice. Nobody would make any kind of bad choice to be born as those, animals. Or even as a human being, where there is so much, problem, suffering. Like many of the world, in this, world, many of countries where there are born human beings, we see, how much suffering, problem, difficulties. Even they don't have enough foods, enough clothing, no house to live. And who is kind of that stupid person going to just make that choice? If we have that choice, who is going to make that choice? Nobody. But then, while somebody has to born there. So, and in many ways, just in general, we do think, oh, maybe that is, just kind of like a God or somebody just kind of punish. And then if it is a kind of, even we think, oh, it is a just punishment, then we have to know what that person has did something wrong to be punished in that way. Without doing anything, just cannot be just, punished. Even our relative, kind of law, when nobody does any kind of mistake, then, just randomly a police comes and just, punish you. It is not possible. Nobody can just really do that in a relative sense. If you didn't do anything wrong, then just there is no anything to just, punish you. So if you do a mistake, then, we do get some punishment. So they must have done something wrong. However, we can put in that way, whether we think of in general kind of, whole bunch of religion who believe that it is just God's creation or God's punishment. Or like, Buddhism is their karma. Or, according to Muslim, just, oh, this is that what Allah did for that. However, we can just think this way or that way or other way. Especially like God and Allah and Ishwar and Vishnu and those kind of enlightened beings, that they have kind of just much greater compassion to all this being. So how it is possible just somebody be just kind of tortured in that way? Even it has been punished in that way that there is something that just those beings have did something. And that is why, again it comes back that one have done something wrong in that way in Buddhism where it is called karma. Cause and effect of karma, the action. Karma is action, nothing else. Whatever sort of we do, the action. And that action is not just only physical action. Action relates with, mind, verbal, and physical body. Because what we have is just only three. We have mind, verbal and physical body. And we could do any sorts of kind of, creative things, any sorts of action through our mind, mental action, how we think. And then the other action, physical, more like verbalizing, how we verbalize. And then physically what we do. All this, action. And that, whatever sorts of body, speech, mind action we do, according to that it has its own consequences. Its kind of result is there. Same like if we just, even this in the hall, we say, oh, then there is some sort of ego. Ego just kind of repeating same thing. If you say a bad word, it will repeat you bad words. If you say something good, it repeats, good. So, in reality, whether you, whether you hear a bad word or a good word as a ego, it's just both are illusion. Nothing real. It doesn't mean anything. But how we conceptualize. Oh, this is a bad word, this is a good word. And when you hear a bad word, even it is ego, you feel sometimes like kind of, angry. And when you hear a good word and you feel like kind of, just joy. And that where you feel is based on your mind, how you conceptualize about that. Even in reality, there is nothing, it's just, really existing. And that is the same thing what we are doing with this whole world. Even reality, just nothing is really happening and nothing is really means anything but how we conceptualize, and then we started just kind of, acting according to that. And that way how we have just all this mental action. And within that action, then just in generally like mind, that part of that four thoughts, precious human impermanence and cause and effect of karma, that all these are related. So as a mind, just whatever sorts of thoughts may arise within our mind, all the thoughts, millions and billions thoughts may arise within one day. And that only can categorize into three, which is called virtuous thought, and then non-virtuous thought, and then neutral thought. So, the virtues and non-virtues, that kind of just word, it is existing just in all religion. All the spiritual teaching, that's something what is called virtue and something which is non-virtue. And those words are, just we do utilize in our kind of, daily conversations, but not that much. If you examine, just through your one day conversation, do you ever really use these words that much? You don't use that much. Virtue and unvirtue. Because we are not just really kind of involved that much in the spiritual understanding. And that is why the language, that which helps to communicate our spiritual qualities and our divine nature, is also kind of disappearing. It's becoming just less. And you don't have that. Somehow you are not using that much of that language like virtue and unvirtue because you don't care much about that concept. So that is the problem. You don't really care much about what is virtue and what is non-virtue. If we care for something, then those concepts are always there. And then those words are always there. And then as a parent, as a friend, as a relative, as a teacher, would just advise, oh, this is, virtuous, this is, unvirtue. Don't try to do this kind of unvirtue thing. Try to be more, virtuous person. We could advise in that way when we have the concept and language and caring for that. But do we ever just really kind of advise our kids, children, just saying, just be virtuous? And never try to do anything that which is, non-virtue. Not much. And within that kind of just, the category that virtue and unvirtue, and then the third one, which is called neutral. So there is a virtuous thought, non-virtuous thought, and neutral thought. So virtuous thought, why it makes a virtuous thought? How it composes that which can be identified as a virtuous thought and non-virtuous thought and neutral thought is that when you have a thought, something kind of, depending on like, compassion, loving kindness, thought of benefiting, thought of caring others, not to create harm to somebody, and being just nice. And those kind of just, thoughts when you are arising, that which is called virtuous thought. And that we have, that we do use. You do, I think, just you do, advise, be kind, don't be rude, just be, compassionate, be loving, that just, I think many people just, and many parents and many teachers, I hope, do just express that, that, and not to be just, kind of mean to others, not to be just, very negative, don't be just, kind of very cruel to and just, other people. So we can just see in our day-to-day lifetime what sorts of language we are using. And that language shows how much we have in our mind. And that which just kind of, projects what is our world, the world where we live. And that is what we just kind of, project. And then the non-virtuous, that anything that which is related with any sort of afflictive emotion, hatred, any kind of hatred thought arise, anger, desire, pride, ignorance, jealousy, and you just see any of those thoughts are arising, it is non-virtuous action and it is negative because those thoughts kind of, cause problem to yourself. The moment these thoughts arise, you also do not necessarily just feel kind of, comfortable with that. Nobody really feels just, joyful with the hatred thought. In a common sense. So, that is why it is by its nature those thoughts are negative, and those negative thoughts are, which is the thoughts that in form of thought, action, and that, just which is the cause of, suffering, because it is non-virtuous. So, with the, kind of negative thought, we express something that which is something unkind, something hateful, something, kind of showing anger. And that kind of just, verbalization, when it is verbalized with that kind of thought, just nobody really appreciates that. Nobody really appreciates it, even in, common sense. And so that is why as a spiritual practice, there is not possible that anyone wants to just really appreciate about that, even in our family. So that part we have to just know and learn, just how we can, train our mind, how we can train ourselves, that where we could just, give rise to more virtuous thoughts of all this something, compassion, loving, being kind, nice, just good to others, thought of benefiting, how we can just try to, develop that, because that is the, cause of happiness and cause of peace. And also it can be just, developed in such a way in form of real practices with this kind of transcendental wisdom, that which also can become cause of liberation and cause of enlightenment as ultimate happiness. And that we can train our mind. And that what it is called practice. And that will change the world. That will change your life. That will change, yourself, then being from a mean person to a better person. And being always worried and fear and so much of negative thoughts, that which creates so much problem. And then if you just try to reduce that and develop this, more virtuous thought, you change yourself and you feel better and always feel more happier. So that way, where we try to just reduce all these negative thoughts, non-virtuous thought, because it is the cause of suffering and cause to reborn in the cyclic existence, and moreover even in the three lower ranks. If we do just very serious, very, very negative, just action in relation with your thought and verbalizing and action, and that just, since it has a consequences, some sort of, result, it is by its nature. And then one have to just, experience that. And that what it is called the law of karma, law of action. And that is nobody's belief system. Even though it has been said, Buddhism believes in karma. Buddhism explains about what is called that negative thoughts and positive thoughts, virtuous thoughts and non-virtuous thoughts, and its results and causes and conditions, and how it affects and how it produces the whole experience of your life in the world, in the relative reality. And that it explains. And that is why just it is extensively explained, and then people say, this is Buddhist belief. So it is not just only a kind of belief, but it is reality. We just examine, as we examine, then it's okay? Okay. So this is also a kind of cause and condition. When somewhere something is just get blocked, then, sound, the effect also just reduce. So, so then in that way, just how we can understand. And then on the other hand, which is called noodle thought. So noodle thoughts are, just anything that which is not related with these concept and thought. That where we think, I want to go to the park, or just to the beach, or just to the restaurant, or just go to a movie, and then or just to a show. It's nothing negative or nothing positive. And but then in between there are possible, again you give rise to negative thoughts and positive thoughts. As you walk, I want to go to the beach. Okay, you go to the beach and then you have fun and just walking and enjoying, and then suddenly something happens. Somebody may just tease you, or maybe have a bad look at you, and then maybe just, and then immediately you just kind of, like angry or something, and then you were again just, instantly wherever, whatever kind of just afflictive emotion may arise, and that may become just something negative thought. And when, as you walk, maybe somebody is nice, hi, oh, how are you? And you feel good with that, and you may have some, more positive thought. And then instantly, just, something good thought, you feel good. And that way, where in between, just anytime, anywhere, while you are in the neutral thought and with the neutral verbalization, with a neutral action, so your thought, oh, I want to just go to the park or beach. And then verbalizing, oh, do you want to go? I'm going to the park, just to the beach, just have fun. Okay, yes, I'm going. And then you walk. So you have, your thought, a neutral thought, neutral verbalization, neutral, kind of physical action. And anything that which is related with the neutral, there is no anything specific, its consequences. So nothing just, really creates anything positive or negative. Nothing like virtuous or non-virtuous. So that is why it doesn't have its consequences. So that is why you don't have to worry about that. But the problem is, if you spend too much time in neutral thought, in neutral action, just in one way it is fine, in one way is you are just wasting time. Because you gain nothing. You have fun, and that's all. So in relation with all these mind training, just sometimes in a while, it is okay in the neutral thought. It is much better than being in negative thoughts. So, just the most important part of these three thoughts, the best if you can just, all the time, most of the time, the major time, if you could spend in virtuous thought and virtuous verbalization and virtuous action, the best. And then even you could not just really maintain all the time in your day-to-day lifetime, but at least just not to have anything that which is kind of negative thought, negative verbalization, negative action. And that part, just where you have to work, kind of training. And, sometimes you have a kind of like suddenly a kind of negative thought arise. You are just, angry. And then instead of, just immediately verbalizing or showing physical action, if you, just try to, okay, let it go, and just be, instantly think of, okay, just to have fun, and being in a neutral, it is better. Because you are not accumulating that negative cause and condition that which may cause, which has that kind of consequences, effect, result, something where you have to experience that kind of, suffering. So that, just this part is just so important, kind of the practice in our day-to-day lifetime. Within our being, within our being, how we can just become a just noble person, rather than like a kind of, devil person. Rather than being a very negative person, why you cannot become a very positive, a noble person? And as we see, we can be very noble, we can be very, very scary, negative person. And that is also possible. We can go into extremes. As we see in this world, there are peoples who are in these extremes and who are in between. And that is all happening just because of one's mind. And just because of that, kind of way of thinking. And because of the kind of, whether we have, just whether we have some sense of, understanding of that kind of reality and how it makes differences or not. And when people really don't understand that, and then people just give rise to any kind of thought, and then, with that they started creating all sorts of just plans, and, then started acting on it, and then create, problems to oneself, and problems to one's family, and problems to the society, to the nation. Sometimes one person can create a big problem to the whole nation. So it is just all because of the negative thought, nothing else. And similarly, with the just kind of, very positive thought, it can bring a great result for the whole nation. So that is all, everything is completely depend of our mind training. And that kind of just, practice. And for that to just, how you can be more, always being in, virtuous thought, and not in negative thought, and not that much in the neutral, how you can just train yourself. And that you need two kind of, just tools. Just two tools. Mindfulness and conscientiousness. And you have to have that kind of mindfulness in relation with your awareness. Just at least just have some sense of, awareness, some sense of, mindful. This is the right way of thinking and right way of verbalizing and right way of doing things. This is the wrong. I should be just trained this way more and trying to abandon this kind of negative thing. And where you need to have that kind of, mindfulness, sense of awareness. And not forgetting what is virtue, what is non-virtue, what is neutral, and how it makes difference in the kind of, relative life and, in ultimate sense, and, just even in relation with, as a result, happiness or suffering. And that needs lots of education to understand, to really know in relation with the relative truth and relative reality again. And then the consciousness is, even you have that mindfulness, kind of sense of awareness, where you know, where you understand, but again need somebody just watching there. And when nobody watches, again, even knowing that you may do mistake. Just we know that you cannot park in certain places. You know that. And you know that it might get the ticket. But still, sometimes, consciously, we try to do the same. We try, not really try, we really do that mistake. Just thinking, oh, what it matters, just a second, I'll park and go and get and then just, and many times you are fortunate, lucky, the police ticket didn't come there. But anytime you just get caught, and when you got excused one time, two times, and then you get habituated. And that is the problem, the biggest problem. You think, oh, last time I parked like this, nothing happened, maybe this time, okay. Until you get a ticket, you think it is okay. And when you get a ticket, then again you don't really look back into your own habits. You just become angry with the policeman. Oh man, why that person just came like that? Just this is only 1 minute, I haven't come, and just how come, just and this is all. And then you started just saying bad words to that policeman, and not really thinking to yourself what you have done. We don't really just realize our own mistake in that way, because our senses are like this. All our senses are like this. We have a very, very sharp mind and senses to watch the faults of others. Never try to look inside to oneself. And that is part of just our problem, the cause of problem, cause of suffering. So that is why you need that conscientiousness every time, watching yourself and also disciplining yourself. And that what is a kind of real spiritual, we don't really just care that much, The consciousness of watching what is you are thinking, what is you are verbalizing, what is physically what you are doing, anything that is kind of virtuous or non-virtuous, anything that is beneficial or harmful. And that way we don't really just care that much, and we don't really concerned in that way, and we don't really just kind of watch ourselves in that way. Even you have mindfulness, but when you don't have that consciousness, then same kind of getting ticket, problems we do. And when we get that kind of result, the ticket, then just I should not do this, I've been just doing this. And then we realize, in one way, still it is good. We get a punishment, and we learn, and then we get corrected with sense of mindfulness and conscientiousness. But somehow, still, that because of the habit again, because of the habit, just the habitual tendency is a very, very compelling, kind of very powerful within your being if you really don't watch that one, the habit. And that is why, just, 2-3 times I got, just escaped. And only one time I got ticket. That is a bad day, bad luck. Maybe this time again one may just do. It's so possible in that way, instead of correcting ourselves. So in that way, even we are learning through mistake, if we will not try to really sincerely correct ourselves, we will never ever get better. Then spiritual practice, worships, prayers, chantings, hymns, offering candles, flowers, and all this, however we may do, it has its consequences, but not necessarily it will change yourself. So that is why it is just important, somebody who is doing always this kind of mistake, how it is possible even just God could excuse you. How even just Jesus Christ could excuse you. How even kind of Vishnu or Allah or any other just object of their refuge, Buddha, they also don't think this is fine. If we do same kind of mistake, and especially all this kind of, non-purchase actions, and they also will just, feel they are not doing the right thing, and they are not doing what just supposed to do. And then, of course, there is the possible, according to those who believe in God, their punishment. According to Buddhism, ripening of their karma, ripening of their own negative actions result, which is called suffering. And then when we experience that suffering, then we just, kind of, feel bad, and then kind of worried, and, all sorts of just, like pains, and then, just sometimes even again, same like that, we don't look into ourselves, why this is happening to me, because I did something wrong. And we are just still, God, why this is happening to me? I've been just being good and nice and sincere, and why this is happening to me? And that way where we got confused, instead of really looking to oneself, just what one have done. Same like that, to get like, just there is another one why this ticket is getting to me, why not to this? So, that way, just we get confused and lost, and then we don't know again just what to do. So that is why, just we need that mindfulness and conscientiousness in our kind of, day-to-day lifetime. That how we can just do a better person from a bad person to a better person to a kind of, much better person, and from much better to a kind of like a very best person, and then from that how we can become a noble person, and that which oneself gradually, progressing and developing into this, all this virtuous field, and where one can also, constantly reduce all this suffering and develop the peace and joy and happiness in one's life. And that will receive the blessing of the, just all the objects of their refuge. That will be taken care of by the, God or Jesus or Buddha or Allah. I think just all those, objects of refuge, they would say, that is good job. And that way, whatever your kind of, background is, you are really pleasing them and you are just following their teachings. Whether it is Bible or Quran or Bhagavad Gita or Tripitaka, whatever the holy books, teachings are there, then you are following that. And in society, people appreciate you. In your family likes you if you are a virtuous person. And in the society, in the world, that, and then that where you have your spiritual practice in that way. So it is something just very, very positive, and in this lifetime you have a good reputation. In the next lifetime you have good result. Again, good result. So why don't we just kind of, understand in that way, and why don't we train in that way? Why don't we watch our mind to train and kind of, practice what it is called practice? Why we could not just, do that? If that is the just, kind of, just nature and the result. But the problem is we don't understand all this, each and every consequences, how things are working in that way. When we don't have enough knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and then we keep doing the same kind of, mistake, and then same kind of problem, then same kind of, just suffering. And then, one feel like life is kind of, just, kind of like a burden, some kind of, like, so negative. And then one feel like there is no much meaning. So whether to become a meaningful life or not, it is in one's hand. It does not depend just completely on this kind of, world or somebody else. It is in your hand. How you can just make your life meaningful. Something just kind of, beneficial. Something that has a purpose. Whatever sort of purpose, however oneself is born in this world. According to Buddhism, it is just born. Every single beings are born according to their karma. And according to that, whether we could just, really do something better in relation with all this kind of, spiritual practice or not, it is in one's hand. And our purpose in one way, it is just, ultimate purpose and temporary purpose. Ultimate purpose is to liberate and, just attain that, just ultimate, just happiness. Ultimate happiness to recognize one's own divine nature, this pure nature. To be by oneself. And that's what it is called, to be by oneself. Not as somebody else. what we are, who we are, according to our absolute nature. Something which is kind of, the pure quality, pure nature, which we have, how we can recognize that. And that is our ultimate purpose, ultimate result, ultimate kind of reason that we just, born constantly in this world. And then temporary purpose, how you can just, live yourself in a more peaceful and happy way. At the same time, how you can help, others to live, more peacefully and happily. And that there is the possible if we train, if we work, if we know, if we understand, and just, kind of working in that way, it is possible. We can just get better and better because of that quality, because of that potential, because of that our nature. It is just, possible. In that way, if we just kind of, train, like, hundreds to thousands and thousands to millions and millions to billions, and when that kind of the majority populations of the world could live much more positively in that way, of course there can be happiness and joy and, just peace, and that which can transform this world into much more better place, more peaceful, and less disaster. Because there will be just naturally there is, kind of accumulated or created, just greater and powerful, positive energy. There is the positive energy and negative energy. And when there is more positive energy, it is just more peaceful. And when there is more negative energy, there is more problem. And that whether that could become just something more positive or negative energy is depend upon, each and every individual being, especially the human beings. Because human beings have a special brain, a special mind, a special capabilities. Much, much greater, capabilities than the, animal beings. So that is just one reason where we could understand the precious human rebirth. Why that, human is considered as something precious. As we know, how much kind of, the special kind of, speciality that we have as a human being. All sorts of trainings and understanding and knowledge, and including spiritual practice, there is no such thing that with the, animals. And then the other beings, like, hungry ghost beings, there is so much suffering, they don't have that opportunity. Hell beings, there is so much suffering, constant suffering, there is no that opportunity. Even the demigods and goblins, they have just so much happiness, prosperity, and they got so distracted with that, again they don't have that opportunity. Just when, kind of like even human beings, those who are always kind of, their life is fine, everything is good, okay, they don't really pay much attention for any kind of spiritual development. Because they think this is fine. And beyond that, they don't really see what is next life, what is going to happen next life after the death. But before they could enter into the next life, when they are getting closer to the death, and then we see how much suffering is there, how much fear is there. They were just kind of so much worried. Oh, what am going to happen? How I'm going to die? What is going to happen after the death? Am I really going to heaven or hell? Or am I going to have any good result? Or what is going? And then there is so much worry and fear and suffering. And that is same thing with the God realm. So, because till to that, one never just trained anything. One never prepared anything for that. Before the death. So then, of course, it is just eventually going to have that same confusion and, problem. So So that somehow missing that spiritual, understanding, spiritual practice, not just only as, kind of like someone who is only devoted, but as a whole, all beings need, and especially the human beings have that kind of, capability, and that is why it is called precious human rebirth. So human form, the human support, is the best out of all these classes of beings, that where there is the possible that one can train and do all this practice until one can achieve that kind of liberation and enlightenment. So that what explains that precious human rebirth. So that way one should really understand, contemplate how it is precious, and then one should not just waste it. One should take advantage of that. And that advantage, if we don't take it now, then we never know we even have that kind of time to take that advantage or not in the future, because everything is impermanent. Momentary changes are going on. Momentary things are just got changed. Every single moment, everything is just, every single moment, all those changes are happening. We never know, we never see, we never could understand. Like our body, every single moment, how, and when we look into those kind of, microscopes, scientific method, just even those molecules, those molecules in our bodies and all those insects and germs, how they are just kind of, rapidly moving. And those, until we see through those microscopes, till to that we even don't know just any kind of movements are happening or not. And in reality, those things are happening. So in that way, just, the impermanence nature, how we can just, understand, just never know we have tomorrow or not. We can be more positive, optimistic. Okay, there is tomorrow, there is next year, there is 2010, there is 2020, 30. Until I get, just 89 years, 90 years, I'm not going to die. Who have that guarantee? Nobody has that guarantee. Our parents didn't give us any kind of guarantee like that. No any company. They have life insurance. But they don't have any guarantee how long you are going to live. And as we see in the relative world, based on relative truth, it is not like Buddhist teaching that makes you kind of like scared. And it is the reality what we see in our everyday life, how beings are just kind of, dying, not depending upon their age at all. But as we get older and older, definitely we know that we are going to die. And then at that time, what we can just really carry with ourselves, all those $1 billion, your fancy car, nice home, jacuzzi, swimming pools. So, including this our body. The moment we are born until we die, we have been taking care of this body. Just for whole life. And we have been just taking care of this body in our best way. Best way just to serve this. But when death happens, we also leave this body behind. And what follows with you is those virtues, non-virtues. Only those things will, even you don't want it. Even you just write a will that I don't want all these virtues and non-virtues just not following after me. But it will never ever let you go because of its nature. And that will just only follow with you if you have anything that which is something virtuous, something meritorious, something good. And at the same time, anything that negative will just, follow, and beyond than that, nothing just, follows. Even though you are kind of relatives, friends, parents, kind of just somebody, even who wants to die with you, but cannot just really follow with you. And the moment you just die, your body, the next day, nobody wants that. The next day say, okay, it's fine, just take it away. Before you know how much craving you have, how much you like it, how much you love it, and how much you care for it. And the moment just, the death, then you just, just mind somebody, and you just cry a little bit, and then they just, if you are really just, upset and sorry, you are really feel kind of, just bad about missing this, you can keep it. And say, no, it's okay, fine, you can take it. Nobody wants to. And that is the reality, it's still true. So how we can just really understand that kind of nature in a way, just kind of, impermanence and uncertain that when it is going to come, we never know. So then why don't we prepare now for, all those things? Being something more virtuous, being meritorious, being a better person, why don't we do that? And it is always beneficial for oneself. And that covers the whole, just kind of one's spiritual practice, background, religion, whatever belief one may have, it will just cover up. If we do that, it will cover up. Just only we believe something and in reality it doesn't happen, then we cannot see you anywhere. You believe something is going to happen good for me, and then at the end it never happens according to the reality. And then what you are going to do? You cannot sue to somebody in this world. I believe this way and this is supposed to happen to me, and now this is happening, and now this is not really happening according to that. Just where we can just claim for that, where we can just complain. So that is why it is always better to know the truth, the reality, with some sense of wisdom. How we can do and how we can deal with our life in our day-to-day lifetime, just doing something virtuous and meritorious and positive, that which can be appreciated by one's family, one's relatives, society, the community, nation, and even just one's object of refuge, that they will also appreciate you, and ultimately it is beneficial. So that way, how we can just cover up all those things based on understanding the precious human rebirth, impermanence, cause and effect of karma. That is the just international law. Kind of the just law of all being. And then the fault of samsara somehow, in samsara, as I explained, hell being, sun God being, where there is suffering, that is the fault. Even we born as a human being, we have temporary happiness, and more of time we have all this kind of suffering, and that is the fault. So something where there is no tiny bit of fault, and always just happy and peaceful and joyful, is that which is called nirvana, the liberation, the enlightenment, the Buddhahood, the ultimate recognition of one's own primordial nature. And that is the where there is no tiny bit of fault at all. It is just completely perfected. So that kind of just perfection to really experience and to get there, then there in Buddhism there is the object of refuge, where we can trust, where we can just devote ourselves, where we could have that confidence, got into that, then it explains that in Buddhism there is Buddha, somebody who is enlightened, with all the perfection of the great compassion, great wisdom, great knowledge, all the positive qualities are just accomplished, and who cares to all being without a tiny bit of distinction, impartiality, compassion. Doesn't really care who you are, as long as you are a sentient being who have those feelings, thoughts, emotions, and born in this cyclic existence and experiencing that kind of suffering. That there is equal compassion, equal loving kindness, equal care, and equal sense of just watching you to help you to guide on the right path. Just when you are guided on the path and as you follow, there is the way you can just be liberated. It is not that somebody just comes, somebody very strong, and just pull you, pick you up, and then throw you to heaven or kind of liberation. Okay, just. In reality, never ever just happen in this way. If that can be done, just there are already happened millions of those, enlightened beings, they have already done long time back. Why just they have to wait? Or they are playing with us? Or just be like kind of, just let them just experience what is samsara and just have some kind of, torturing. Or maybe we could not let it go. Because we think, samsara is fun. We have all sorts of sports, games. So there is something where there is from the object of the refuge and from your side that again cause and condition how you have to connect it and work together to just happen that kind of ultimate result, that happiness and joy, the eternity peace. That how you can recognize your true nature. When you attain enlightenment or achieve that Buddhahood or that, just the ultimate happiness is that what you are recognizing, your own primordial nature. You are not a stranger at that point. You are not just become something different. You are just kind of, changing your identity. It's nothing like that. It is recognizing your own primordial nature, your true nature. And that's what it is called the bodhicitta, awakened mind. Just to awake yourself. Awake yourself, your true nature, like how you awake from the dream. In the dream, how you are experiencing, there is a dream, you are there, all those peoples are there, and, lands are there, all sorts of things, and then you goes on, and the moment you wake up, you realize, that is just illusion. That was a dream. And when you are awakened, you just, see the reality. So similar like that, through the ignorance and diluted mind, we are just having this experience of this samsaric dream, which is kind of illusion. And we haven't awakened from that. We haven't awakened from that. That is why we feel this is so real. Everything is so real. Tangible, feeling, pain, emotion, everything we feel real because we haven't awakened from this samsaric diluted mind's dream. Haven't awakened. And when you are in the dream, everything feels so real. Only until you wake up from that dream, till to that you don't know you are even dreaming. Till to that you don't know that is unreal. And that is the truth, that is the reality. And that is the example we have. Like your dreams, something which appears so real but not necessarily real. It is illusion. So that way, just to awaken oneself, one's own true nature, just to help, just to get some, kind of like, even you have that kind of, just nature, potential, you could be awakened. But you need, some kind of condition. Like even you are dreaming, just there happen some kind of condition. Somebody may wake you up, there may happen some kind of sound, or sometimes you are too frightened and you wake up. Some condition is there. Otherwise you will continue your dream or your nightmare. So, moment you wake up, then you realize the truth. So similar like that there is the, the object of refuge, and then how you follow into that kind of, path with your just pure intention, which is called generating bodhicitta, and generating compassion, loving kindness to all these beings. And as long as you are maintaining the compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta within your being in your day-to-day lifetime, you are having that virtuous thought. And then you are constantly accumulating merit and, just the virtue that you are assembling the cause and condition of happiness and liberation, and to recognize your true nature. And that is why the whole complete necessity to maintain, oneself in one's day-to-day lifetime, into which that, motivation, the intention of just, perceiving all this being with sense of, compassion, loving kindness. And with that kind of very positive attitude, how you can just perceive all this being. When you kind of, just with a compassion, loving kindness thought, and when you look with that, and naturally just you see them just something just very positive, liking, lovely. And that is how you, again, from the beginning of our teaching, that how you project things. How you project with your mind, something loving. When your mind is kind of loving, when you see them, they also feel kind of, you see, oh, they are also loving. Even they hate you, you will perceive loving. Because of your projection of mind is so strong, you can just transform that nature. And so that is why the intention just, become very important, just everyday lifetime, how you can just try to, always have that intention of compassion and loving kindness. And to just, to cultivate that kind of attitude towards this, being, and try to just, maintain in that way. And when you have, your whole being with the sense of compassion, loving kindness, the bodhicitta, it is all very positive. And that way, when you lead, when you feel that way, you also feel peaceful, joyful, happy, no any problems. And your family also just, experience in that way, because you are just kind of generating a positive energy. And then, just how you can project in that way, and how you can just, maintain. And in relation with that, how you can just feel the devotion to the object of refuge as Buddha, who is enlightened. And then the Dharma, which is the teaching. So teaching is everything what we have been going through today. And then as you read all those, books, and that is the teaching which helps you to enlighten, yourself to understand the reality and relative truth and absolute truth. And it opens mind, and it just gives rise to that kind of wisdom to understand the reality. And that teaching is not a belief system, it is the truth of reality. As long as you study and to understand, just everything is completely dependent of the validating logic. That is why Buddha said, anything these, my teachings, you don't have to necessarily follow because I said so. You can just, examine. You can just test it. You can analyze it. And if it makes a logical sense, according to the reality, according to the truth, then you may follow. And if it helps to benefit you, you can follow. If it is not logical and doesn't help you, doesn't benefit you, you don't necessarily have to follow. So, we need to have wisdom. How we can analyze, how we can examine, how we can just, have some sense of kind of logical, ways to establish that kind of, just the wisdom to understand. And that way, how you can just relate with the object of refuge of, the enlightened Buddha and then his teaching. That teaching, the Dharma, that which, it is kind of validating in all the sense. Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching taught 2,500 something years before. And today, it is just 21st century. From that time to today, just the world has just changed so much with all this kind of science and technology and so forth, where we feel like we are live in a very, very, very advanced world, like 21st century. And how things are externally got changed. And many things which we are using like 2,500 years ago doesn't work, these days. Like all those kind of, like block cards, chariots, and then, all those kind of, just machines, and making fire with some kind of stones or, something, and those kitchen with the, firewoods, and, putting all those kind of, and so if we do that, it is kind of very, very strange today. But Buddha's teaching, how much it is making sense and how much it is beneficial at that time, is today, again, it is making that same sense and same benefit. It is getting much more better. There is no anything that you can say, oh, Buddha taught this teaching, and those we need only those time. We don't need on this 21st century. There is no anything that you can just, kind of just get rid of. If you study, if you really look, there is no anything that you can just say, oh, we don't need this now, because we got change. So that is up to you. You can just examine how far it is true. Because the problem is same. The real problem, that suffering, pains, is just same. How much suffering that had in those days, 2,500 years before, the problem of afflictive emotion, within all those beings, what they have, that we have today, same thing. Nothing got changed. Nothing got better. And maybe even just it is stronger. Just look at these afflictive emotions, like hatred and anger. How much causing problem? Like warfare. And how much destruction can be done with a tiny kind of just one weapon, nuclear weapons. So the problem is still there. So that is why that teaching just kind of up to date. Still it makes sense, much better sense. And that is why, since all have some sense of wisdom, some sense of intellectual, some sense of their kind of quality arising of their primordial nature, that is why now it is just been kind of like interested by the world population. Just people feel kind of, oh, this is something to learn. Because there is the truth. And that is the reason that who is somebody who is enlightened, just that kind of teachings make sense all the time. And there is no anything contradicting with the relative reality, relative truth. and absolute truth. So that, how that teaching is enlightening is because it is coming from an enlightened mind. And then the Sangha, the third one, Sangha is, those who follow that kind of, teaching properly, which is called following those teaching in accordance with that, what it has been taught, without manipulating anything, without, contriving, without just, interpreting the teaching, the authentic teaching, what that has come out of an enlightened mind, that same thing from master to disciple, completely with the whole complete sense of, transmission and training transmitted. And when that, kind of disciple become qualified, then the master recognize, okay, now you can just teach. Now you can just give all this information. So until somebody have that kind of just, sense of wisdom, and that way how it just, kind of like the whole complete authentic transmission flows from master to disciple and master to disciple. So there is no anything interpretation in between. There is no anything conceptual, kind of thought and the understanding put inside, or no anything being abstracted from that kind of, that true teaching. That is why it is still alive. And that is why it is just, really benefiting. So that way, when we see the qualities of Buddha, enlightened being, and the Dharma, the teaching, which is the kind of validating logic according to the relative and absolute, truth and reality, and those who follow the, teaching properly, in accordance with that, and have the wisdom and a certain level of experience and realization, and that way, how it is just kind of, help to understand all other beings, and that what it is called object of refuge, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and where we can just, trust, and where we can rely, because this Buddha, Dharma, Sangha never ever betrays anybody in this whole world. Never ever betrays. And that is the just perfect quality which is there. And that, just to really understand that, one have to just kind of study more Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, what is really meant by Buddha, what is meant by teaching, which is meant by Sangha, and study more. And then when you know more qualities about that, and then the devotion, trust, faith naturally arrive. And then there happens the actual communication, and then there happens the actual blessing, and that way how one can get all those, benefit. And then in part, just how you receive all those training, and according to that, how you can just, train yourself with that, mindfulness and conscientiousness, and how you can be a just, always a better person for one's own benefit and for the benefit of all beings. And that way, how we can just understand this Dharma in relation with the four thoughts, and then the refuge, and how we can engage and how we can do that kind of practice. So, so then I think I should stop here.